Welcome back, everyone, to our lucky number 13 episode of the Fantasy Variation. I, as always, am Tommy, and in the building with me is Colin, like always. Colin, how are you doing on this Wednesday night here?
I'm doing good, man. Coming off a Colts win. Anthony Richardson looks good, so vibes are high right now. Fantasy wise, I'm not going to talk about it, but Colts, we're good. How about you doing?
I'm good, man, and I'm glad you brought up the Colts because the elephant in the room this weekend, me and Colin are going to the Lions-Colts game in Indianapolis. So I'm wondering how you're feeling about that. Obviously, going in as 7.5-point underdogs, but I probably don't feel as confident as I should as 7.5-point favorites. So curious to get your thoughts on what's going to happen in this one.
I like the plus 7.5. Am I confident we're going to win? No, not at all. But I'm confident we're going to win some money because Colts. I think there's a lot of good matchups here, so we're definitely going to be crafting up some parlays and making a lot of bets on this game. So, whether the Colts win or lose, we're going to have a good time and win some money.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more bets placed on this Lions-Colts game on Sunday morning once we get to Indy's. Oh, I think we only have one apiece on our best bets. Maybe you have two of them. I can't remember.
Yep, just got one.
Okay, yeah, we'll probably get some more down eventually. But yeah, we each made a pick from that game since we're going to be there. And yeah, I guess from my point of view, I like I said, I'm kind of a little nervous, I guess, because the Lions in the past have struggled a lot against running quarterbacks. I was really hoping that Joe Flacco played, honestly, like regardless of who you think's better, just for the Lions defense, I think we have a better shot at shutting down the Colts if we're playing against a quarterback that's not super mobile in the pocket. Our defense usually does better against that. And now we're missing Hutchinson and Alex Anzalone broke his arm last game. So we're down a couple of big key pieces, a couple of captains on our defensive side. So we'll see how we fare. I think the plus 7.5 is a great bet for the Colts. I personally am not going to take it myself. So those are just my quick thoughts on what's going to happen this weekend. But obviously I still like the Lions to win. I think they're like minus 400 or something, but sprinkling Colts plus 300, I don't think it hurts, man. I think those are pretty good odds.
Yeah, I'm not going to be doing anything right now, but we'll see about Sunday morning at noon. See how we feel then.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's a little bit of what's going on this weekend in our real life NFL games. Let's maybe throw back to last week for our fantasy games. Maybe I should take the lead here on this one.
Yeah, you go for it.
So yeah, big win for my team this week. We move into third place at 6-5, which is so funny to say because of our freaking standings being so skewed. But Cole's in first at 10-1, Riley in second at 8-3, who I actually just beat to get to 6-5. So we're right in the thick of things, and we're second in points scored. So I'm feeling really good about where my team's at. Like I said this whole year, if we were 500 through 10 weeks, I was going to be thrilled, and that's right where we're at. And even better this year with kind of those two teams like branching themselves out at the top. You have a lot better shot at making the playoffs with a mid record. So it's worked out pretty well this year for that strategy. And then as for the game this week, Riley's team just didn't put up too many points. We beat him 132 to 103.5. So I don't think there's too much to really go off of here other than my man Jared Goff is the GOAT. For this one game, I went with a quick rebrand and changed my team name to just Jared Goff, period. And he went off. He scored 34.5 points. I was really nervous. 3 drives. We had 3 touchdowns, all rushing to start the game. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I fell for this stupid game. I knew it was a bad game script or whatever. But then he threw 4 touchdowns on the next 4 drives. So that was awesome to see Jared Goff have a great game for me, as well as a great game for me in the love-hate category, which we'll recap here in a second. I had him last week. So I was happy to see that. And then another big performer, Cooper Kupp. I feel like he hasn't gotten as many targets with Puka coming back, kind of as you would hope to see. Puka seems to be more like the 1A to Cooper Kupp's 1B there right now, which could be a little worrisome down the road. But he could always just have a big play. This Rams offense is really good. So I feel like Cooper Kupp and Puka could have big games pretty much whenever. So I'm thrilled with Cooper Kupp. He had a big week this last week, and I hope he can keep it going into the playoffs. And hopefully once we're there, if we're there, he can keep it going in the playoffs.
Yeah, just looking at your team, it looks like honestly, like your top 4 guys, like points wise, they might have beat my team, honestly, in total points. But yeah, Riley's team just didn't put up numbers. I was trying to do quick math. His bench might have outscored his starters. Kind of typical of Riley. But I'm just hating on Riley. But yeah, really big win for you. On the other hand, we'll go to my game. I've been saying I need a win for probably the past 4 weeks, and in those 4 weeks I've not gotten a single win. So I'm not calling it quits totally yet. We're sitting at 4-7, tied for 7th place right now. But we're not winning tiebreakers against the majority of teams, and yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. I think I started off the year 3-0, and since then I've gone 1-7, so not looking great. As in terms of the game last week, I mean, middle of the day, I was looking really good, honestly. Breece Hall and David Montgomery combined for 55 points. So I mean, it's like, yeah, you gotta feel pretty good there. And then even going in the night game, I was up pretty good. And then Dean had Justin Herbert and J.K. Dobbins and T. Higgins as well. So those guys combined to basically score like, I don't even know, 80 points. Didn't go well for me. Ended up losing by a little a little less than 17. So was not ideal. That's all I'm going to say. We're going to move to next week and hope we can pull one out. I think I'm going to be starting Justice Hill or like Trey Benson. So it's gonna be an interesting week for me.
So Breece Hall's on a bye this week?
Yes, he is.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, you actually, I think, brought up both the points I was going to talk about there. So first, I feel like this is the most Collins score of all time here, with 2 running backs going off and then the rest of the team doing nothing. So that seems about like your typical team build there when you don't have a good week. Shoot, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, yeah, you probably don't want to talk about this, but should I bring up the Jameson Williams thing, or?
I was going to bring it up later. You know what? Okay. We'll bring it up right now. So it's a quick recap of last week. Tommy took Jameson Williams. I took Jalen Waddle. I knew this was going to happen. Tommy took JMO. Of course, he scored a bomb. He finished with 22.6. Jalen Waddle, a nice 5.7, right on par with what he's been doing all year. Why did I take that? I don't know. But just going back to it, if I would have started JMO, I would have won the game by 0.36 points. So, yeah, we're not going to talk about that one anymore. That one stings really bad. I think that's the second time Tommy's told me to start Jameson Williams over someone else, and I didn't. And both those games I ended up losing. So, bad management by me. We're going to move on from that.
Yeah, I think Jamo's just kind of a tough player to have, because he's just kind of a guy you either got to decide, like, are you going to play him or are you not going to play him? Because he's going to have those weeks where he goes off because this offense is so good and he's so explosive. But you're going to get those weeks where, I think he had that one where he had 1 catch for like -4 yards or something. Like, you're going to have weeks like that and you just have to live with it. So are you starting him this week, I guess?
Yeah, I was going to say he is not going to be in any parlays of mine because I'm starting him this week. So unfortunate for you, he's not doing anything this week.
That sucks, man. I guess Amon-Ra 200-yard game incoming.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, who do you have this upcoming week, I guess? Because this is probably, we're getting into must-win territory for you now. Probably going to need to win out.
Yeah. Basically have to win out. I mean, another huge game for me this week. Elgin, he's 4-7. I'm 4-7. We're both tied for that 7 spot. So obviously in the standings, this is massive. I think it's safe to say if I lose this week, I'm not going to make the playoffs and we're going to be done. So massive week for me and Elgin too.
Yep. Yeah. That's funny. I didn't realize you guys were playing, and you said you'd lost the last 4. I think I saw Elgin's lost the last 3. So seems like some will have a chance for a big bounce back here and be able to thrust themselves right into the playoff mix. But yeah, whoever's on the losing side, probably going to be dark days ahead for them. And yeah, this is probably a tough year for us to start recording this podcast since you won the championship the last few years and then might miss the playoffs this year. So tough look there, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think the playoff streak is going to come to an end, unfortunately. But with that being said, I mean, there's another big matchup. We got Barrett and Sneesh, who are both 5-6, one game ahead. So one of them is going to get a loss. If we can get the win, we're going to be tied with them. And I mean, knock on wood, if I can put up more than 120 points this week, maybe get closer to them in the tiebreaker. But who knows? We'll also be rooting for Riley. He's playing Nichols, so another guy I'm tied with.
You say you're rooting for Riley?
Yeah,
right.
I know. I can't believe I said that. Yeah, we'll be rooting for Riley this week. Hopefully his wheel picks, whoever he decides to start, actually does well this week. So we'll see.
Yep. And then I guess just the only 2 games I don't think you touched on were mine, and then upcoming game between Zach and Dean. Shout out to Dean. He's got 3 wins in a row now, up to 3-8 now.
3-8.
He's kind of just on the outside looking in still, but man, he's definitely not dead yet, like you would have probably thought 3 weeks ago. And then the Ironheads lost last week, which was good for me because I was able to jump them in the standings. So kind of hoping Dean can pull out another win here and maybe secure a little bit of a better position with that third spot if I'm able to pull out a win. But
Absolutely.
unfortunately, I'm playing Ron this week. So we'll see how things go. I'm actually only a 8-point underdog in this game, which I feel like a lot of people going into games against Cole, they are very large underdogs, but that could be due to the fact that Alvin Kamara's on a bye. So that's going to help me out a little bit. And I don't think I have, oh no, I have Chase Brown on a bye. So maybe not as good as Alvin Kamara, but I'm still missing a pretty key piece as well. So obviously lucky Saints are on the bye. We'll see if we can do something here. I don't think we're going to be completely dead this week, looking at Cole's projections, but yeah, always a tough game. We have to play him and we're going on the road. So going to be a tough one out there.
Hate to be on the road in that one. That'll be a tough one.
It's tough to play in Ron Stadium. Everyone knows. So we'll see if we can perform. We're ready. We got our heads down and we're focused. So
hey, I'm rooting for you. Good luck.
Yep.
Yeah, Ron's due for a couple more losses this year.
Exactly.
I believe. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, very good. Very good. Well, all right. You want to move into love hates for the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
You can take away last week's if you want to.
Okay. Yeah. So last week, the first guy said I loved Drake May. I loved him at 13. He finished at the 13th quarterback. So kind of a push there. Then I loved Breece Hall at 11. It was a little bit of a stretch, seeing as he was the 11th guy. I mean, that's kind of hard to go. But he finished as the 3rd ranked running back. So big week. Couldn't get it done. Needed more for my fantasy team, but that's all right. And then we took Terry McLaurin at 17, finished tied for 89. So that was a really good pick by me. All jokes aside, yeah, I won't be touching Terry. I feel like I've loved him a lot of times, and I don't think that's gone very well for me. But anyways, you want to recap yours from last week?
Yeah, I'm chuckling a little bit because I feel like that reminds me every week I take someone that plays against the Lions and I feel like it's like not that effective compared to what I think it is. So maybe I should probably rethink the strategy a little bit on always taking a wide receiver or pass catcher against the Lions, but oh well. The other thing I was going to say on your stuff, which will lead into my first love hate from last week, is that Thursday night game was ass. And I thought it was going to be a great game. Oh my gosh. The first, 3.5 quarters were brutal. And then Saquon just beat the brakes off them in the last, 3 quarters of the fourth quarter. And yeah, Devontae Smith suffered from that as well. I loved him, I think, at wide receiver, 27 or something like that. He finished at 54 with 6.9. Nice, but not going to get the job done for us in the love department. The other wide receiver I had was Brian Thomas against the Lions. I loved him. I think wide receiver 30-ish. I deleted it off here, so I don't know, but he finished as wide receiver 30. So it was a pretty solid week for him. Finished just about where he was with Mac Jones at quarterback. I feel like he can't be too mad about that. He didn't find the end zone, much like the entire Jaguars offense. So add a touchdown on there, and that's a fantastic day for him, but obviously didn't happen. And then my last love from last week, I already touched on the GOAT, Jared Goff. Back in the MVP race, nothing more to say.
Great pick there. Great pick. Yeah. Speaking of MVP, how's the future looking? Have you checked it at all?
Dude, I actually haven't. I feel like people are probably putting too much weight, and the people who are going to vote are probably going to put too much weight on that 5 interception game. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at some of those picks, a good 2 or 3 of them are just not his fault at all, or a downfield right before halftime. It's people are taking that way out of proportion. But I feel like looking back on the year, I think Josh Allen's got 4 or 5 picks all season. People are just going to be oh, Jared Goff threw 5 in a game. We're not going to give it to him over Josh Allen, which maybe it's not. But Josh Allen's definitely a better player than Jared Goff. So if he takes it home, I'm not going to be too mad.
No, I agree there, but I mean, still though, if the Lions, I haven't looked at their schedule. I gotta imagine it's kind of tough just seeing their division as hard as it is. But I mean, if they keep winning, I mean, he's definitely going to be in that race. I mean, if they finish with I don't know, 14 wins maybe, if that's reasonable. I mean, he's got to be top 3 in my opinion. But
I think that's probably the problem, kind of like you brought up. At the beginning of the year, I think I probably said if we get 13, 14 wins, he should get it. But now the bar just might be a little bit higher with that interception game that's going to linger in people's minds. And you asked about the ticket. It actually was down to a cash out value of $1 after the game against the Texans. And now it's back up to 16 on the cash out with a $5 buy. So yeah, we're looking pretty good. I'm never going to cash this one out. I don't think. I feel like I'm just going to ride it. So I probably should hit the cash out button immediately before we see another Jared Goof game, but I'm going to ride it out.
It might be coming this week. Who knows?
I don't know if this will be the one, I guess, against the Colts defense. Maybe I should knock on wood for that one. But yeah, we've got some tough games coming up, like you said. We've got the Packers, we got the Bears twice, which they might not be a fantastic team overall, but they've got a fantastic defense. We got the Vikings again, we've got the Niners. So we've got a lot of tough defenses coming up. And Jared Goff, I mean, if he can perform against those, though, and limit those interceptions, that could maybe be the difference to thrust him up above Allen and Lamar and some of those guys.
I was just going to say, I mean, that's going to be really tough, but I mean, great opportunities for him to improve that resume. So,
yep, for sure.
Well, anyways, we'll jump into the loves this week. I got 3 loves again. First one, we're going to start with my boy Anthony Richardson at 16. It's simply just too low in my opinion. Yeah, you could say it's a risk. I mean, at any point he could put up a stinker like we've seen. But he's coming off a great game last week. If he doesn't, like, if he just plays average, I mean, I think he's a top 10, maybe top 5 fantasy quarterback wise, just because of all the rushing yards he gets and the opportunities he has to get in the red zone. But the potential is really high for him there. I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. And he's been feeling all the hate the past couple weeks, so I think he's gonna come out and put up some numbers for me. So loving him at 16.
Yep, you already know I was going to love this pick too, because you sent that text of the guys you love before I had a chance to look, and I was like, yeah, let me get Richardson when I looked at it, and just ignored that you had said that earlier. So obviously I love this pick. Like I said earlier in the show, the Lions, they haven't played a lot of running quarterbacks this year, so tough to judge this season, I guess. But I feel like just every time I watch this team play against a quarterback that can run, they have a great day on the ground and can just scramble and pick up a lot of yards on plays that they probably shouldn't be able to have a huge chunk play. So yeah, I like Richardson to maybe break off a couple of long runs, maybe a couple touchdowns. Hopefully not, I guess, but I think that he will, I guess, with my head, with my heart, though, I'm hoping it's not going to happen.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess for my first love, I'm going to keep it in the QB sphere here. I'm going to love Justin Herbert, and he's actually all the way up at, I think says QB7 now. I think he was QB6 on the list. I might have a typo, but either way, he's at like 6 or 7-ish. So pretty high, but I still love him this week. He's going up against the Ravens, which you can always talk about the matchup every week. They've given up the 3rd most points to QBs, and Lamar, people might be a little concerned about that offense coming off the Steelers game. I definitely wouldn't be at all, because they always struggle against the Steelers ever since Lamar's got there. So I think this is a great chance for them to bounce back. And that would be a good game script for all the Chargers pass catchers as well as Justin Herbert. And then as for the QB, Justin Herbert himself, he's had 19 or more points in each of his last 4 games, and all 4 of those games have had bad game scripts. So he hasn't even really been in a game where he has to like throw a ton, and he's still putting up a lot of fantasy points. So that's great to see. And then also just maybe something you wouldn't think about with Justin Herbert's game, but he has 30+ rush yards in 3 of the last 4 games. So he gives you kind of that little boost, like of just a few points for your floor at quarterback can always help, compared to someone who just like stands in the pocket and doesn't get you any points there. And he also had a rushing touchdown in one of those last 4 games, which I feel like you don't really ever see out of Justin Herbert. So it's good to see him using his legs a little more. Maybe he'll run one in against the Ravens. I don't know. But the Ravens are pretty good against the pass and pretty good against the run and very bad against the pass. So I think the Chargers, even though they like to run the ball, they're probably going to have to throw it to win this game, and they could just find themselves down early and have to throw themselves back in.
Definitely. Yeah. Herbert's a guy that I really love this week too. I'm starting him over Kyler Murray in a couple weeks. I don't think that's anything crazy, but we're definitely going to be talking about Herbert a lot this podcast and how great of a matchup is. So I'll keep it at that. Love the pick. That kind of takes me into my next pick. I love Ladd McConkey at 17. Like we said, faces the Ravens, one of the worst pass Ds. I think Harbaugh is kind of letting Herbert just do his thing now. I expect Herbert to throw for 350 plus yards this game. So looking at last game too, Ladd came off a great game, had, I think it was over 100 yards and I think a touchdown too. But enough to be said there. Ravens D not too good, and that over under is high enough that I think they're going to be passing a lot, and McConkey's going to get involved. So loving him at 17.
Yep, yeah, kind of the same rationale. And I even want to say I think the Ravens are first in points given up to wide receivers. And if they're not, they're definitely top 3, just like quarterbacks. So yeah, fantastic matchup for him. He's pretty high, so he's going to have a pretty good score to get there. But I feel like he's been playing some great football lately. I don't have his stats on me, but he's had some pretty good games this past month or so. So yeah, I really like that pick, and I think the Chargers offense could have a huge day, specifically the passing offense.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you could also look at Ladd, like at the beginning of the season, didn't put up like insane numbers, but I mean, you always got to remind yourself that he's a rookie. He's getting so much better each and every game. So I kind of expect him to go for a lot here.
Absolutely. And I guess real quick before I get into my next pick, because I meant to ask it when you were talking about Richardson, and then when you brought up Kyler, I remembered it, but I didn't want to cut you off because it did go very well into your next pick with Ladd McConkey. But in our league, I have Kyler Murray and Anthony Richardson, who I just picked up, obviously. Shout out to everyone else for not bidding on him. That was awesome for me to get him for free. Even though I love Kyler, and I'll probably start him for a decent amount of games down the stretch unless Richardson goes nuclear. But for this week specifically, who do you like more? Do you like Kyler or do you like Richardson? I think they both have fantastic matchups, good rushing upside. So what do you think there?
That's so tough, honestly. If it were me, I think I would go with Kyler, just because the fact, like you said, you weren't expecting to get Richardson. And you might not have even had this scenario. And I feel like if you start Richardson and Kyler goes off, you're really gonna be beating yourself against it. I don't really have any rationale. That's a really tough decision in my opinion. I forget who Kyler's playing. I think he's got a relatively good matchup too. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, hopefully high scoring. I don't know, man. That's a really tough one. Who knows? Maybe I'd start Richardson too because we're going to the game. But I'd have to think about that one. Who'd you say you're starting right now?
So right now I haven't edited my lineup, so Kyler's still in there. But kind of my thought process, I guess, I kind of like to hedge like across different leagues, I guess. Like, and I have a lot of Kyler Murray in other leagues, and I have 0 Anthony Richardson. So I'm like, maybe I throw him in there or whatever. And then if Kyler has a bad game, like I don't get killed across the board in a lot of my leagues. Cause I want to say I have him in 3 of 6 in my league. So yeah, he's definitely a guy I liked coming into the year, which I said in our first episode. And I lived true to that during my drafts. And then the other thing I was going to say too, I could hedge the Lions game too, because if Anthony Richardson beats the fuck out of us and we lose, then oh well, I had him in my lineup. He scored 35, I guess.
I was going to say, I think you might have made up your mind right there. If Richardson goes off, then you're not too mad at the Lions because your fantasy team's doing well. But if he sucks, that means the Lions did really well. So
exactly, yeah. So I'll obviously root for the Lions, start Anthony Richardson, and then bet the under. That's what I got to do.
There you go.
All my happiness. Something good will happen in that whole thing.
There you go.
All right, well, a little off topic there, but let me get back to my second love here. It's going to be Kyren Williams this week against the Eagles. He's ranked at RB 14, and I feel like I've been seeing a lot of stuff about Kyren Williams of late being like a sell high and all this stuff with Puka and Cooper Kupp back. And sure, he's had, I think, like 11, 10, and 8 fantasy points in the last 3 weeks. So he has been kind of struggling, but he has 0 touchdowns in that span. This offense is so good with Puka and Cooper Kupp back. Those touchdowns are going to come for Kyler Murray. So this might not be a fantastic matchup for him against the Eagles. I want to say they're top like 5 to 10 in least amount of fantasy points given up to running backs. They have a fantastic defensive line. But I just think this offense is too good and he gets too much opportunity. A couple other things I had written down. The Rams have scored 26 plus in 3 of the 4 games since Kupp and Puka have returned. So they've been putting up fantastic points. And in those games, Kyren Williams has had 15 plus attempts in all of them and at least 60 yards in all of them. So he's getting the opportunity and he's been good with it. He just hasn't gotten the touchdowns yet. And he hasn't gotten a lot of receptions. I could see the receptions maybe staying low, like with Puka and Cooper Kupp back, but I feel like he's going to get more than 0 like he had last week. I want to say it's 0 targets. I know he had 0 receptions. And then once again, just touchdowns. Those are going to come for him in this great offense. So I still love him. I've been seeing a lot of stuff about saying to sell high on him. I just couldn't imagine doing that for people that you could get for him. So yeah, I'm going to love Kyren at 14. And I think he's going to bounce back in a big way down the stretch this season. And I hope so. I just traded for him in Dynasty because I'm in win now mode. So he better pull through for me down the stretch here.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not going to say I love this pick, but I mean, you made some good points there. You look, he hasn't gotten any touchdowns. You made the point about Kupp and Puka. I don't think he's been like a top 20 running back since they've both come back. But I mean, I like the point of, this guy's the workhorse. He's going to get his touches. And really all you want in a running back is the opportunities. I mean, if the volume's there, then you hope he does well. And again, if he scores a touchdown, I mean, that'll probably get him over that mark. So
Yeah, I can understand not loving it either because it's not a great matchup. But I was just like, Williams at 14, like that almost seems like insane that he's that low. And I get it with his past performance and stuff, but I just think there's a bounce back coming rather than him just staying at this low level of performance. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, this one might be a little risky with the matchup, but we'll see how it plays out.
Definitely. Well, moving on to my next pick. So I just got a little lost there. I only shared Anthony Richardson so far.
You got Ladd too.
Yeah, I said Ladd. Okay, you're right. The last one I'm taking Tyron Tracy at running back 19. He faces the Bucks, who rank 28th in run defense against running backs in terms of fantasy points. So got a good matchup there. Last 3 games, he's gotten 20 carries, 145 yards, and a touchdown against Pittsburgh, 16 carries for 66 yards against Washington, and then 18 carries for 103 yards and touchdown against Carolina. I expect DeVito to kind of rely on that run game. The Giants got a different quarterback, but I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, I'm a little worried in that the Bucks might beat him up a little bit, but the volume I think is going to be there. We'll run the risk of them loading the box up and making DeVito beat them. But I'm willing to take that risk. He's proven to be a really good running back as of late. So 19, I think that's a little too low.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you're getting a running back that's going to take all the snaps, I guess, basically. And I've been surprised to see how bad Tampa's been against running backs this season. Yep. I feel like in years past, I've always thought of them as like a team you wanted to avoid. I remember when I had Alvin Kamara, it was like every time he played the Buccaneers or the Falcons, it was like, be scared. Like you're gonna play him, but know that he's not going to do very well. Sure. So yeah, I could kind of see, like, I guess I don't see that happening anymore, I should say, with how bad they've been against running backs this year. So yeah, I like that pick. He has a good matchup and he's a full-time starter, but like you said, the only thing that could be a problem is maybe the game script, I guess, but maybe that could help him in the reception department too. So yeah, I also like that pick. I like all 3 of your picks this week.
There we go. I'd love to hear it.
Perfect.
Who you got for your last one?
And I'm going to switch it up for this last one. I'm going to do a hate for this last one, which I don't think I've done in maybe a couple weeks or so. But I'm going to hate George Pickens this week. He's been fantastic this year, especially the last couple games. He's definitely come on a lot more. I want to say he had 8 catches on 12 targets last game. So he's definitely been getting more involved since Russ has come back, which is probably no surprise to anyone since he's whatever you think about Russ versus Fields, you definitely would agree that Russ is a better thrower of the football. So that's obviously going to help George Pickens out. The only problem with this is that this game, there's over a 50% chance of rain the entire time. It's supposed to be terrible weather. And it's the lowest over-under of the week at 36.5. So I just don't see a lot of scoring in this game. And if it's going to be a torrential downpour, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. But man, if there's a lot of rain, I don't see the Steelers throwing the ball deep. And that's where George Pickens makes his money, is on those deep balls. So I just don't know if that weather is going to work well for his game. And then also the last thing I had is just kind of like, I'm not going to bet on the Browns, but every year the Steelers have this stupid game that they lose and they can't do anything. And this kind of feels like it might be the case if the weather is like this. So I'm going to hate George Pickens, but he's been fantastic this year. So I wouldn't be shocked if he catches a bomb or two and disappoints me.
Yeah. Add in, you might have already said it. Add in that it's a Thursday night game. You never know what's going to happen. And it's a classic AFC North game. You don't know what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if this game is like 9-7 final score. So I like the pick there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, not much more to add. I am currently starting him in Pickens in another league, so I might have to revisit that because he kind of convinced me there that he might not do well, but.
We'll see. He has wide receiver 10 though in the rankings. Like he's not
that is crazy.
I hate him to finish below that, but I don't know maybe where I'd put him. Like I think I saw Devontae Smith at like 25-ish or so against the Rams, and I'm like, man, like I might rather start Devontae Smith than George Pickens. Yeah, maybe I would have him fairly low in my rankings if I were to make him for this week.
Sure. Isn't Pickens like top 3 in receiving yards? Or am I thinking of someone else?
He very well could be. I only know his fantasy points, I guess.
I think he might be like top 3, top 5 in receiving yards, but I could be wrong there.
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, because he makes most of his points off like yards and stuff rather than catches. So
Right.
But yeah, he's fourth right now.
Okay. I gotcha.
Dude, holy Nikes, dude. Jamar Chase has 1,056. Jefferson has 912, and then the next highest is 774.
Wow.
Dude, Jamar Chase has been on a
Who is it? It's 774. It's who?
CD.
CD. I was gonna say, is Nico still up there even with the games that he's missed?
Dude, he actually is probably barely off what was on my screen there.
I was gonna say, I bet he's still probably really high up there.
He's 17th right now.
Okay, not as high as I expected, but
it's still pretty impressive, man. He's only got 60 less yards than Amon-Ra this year, and Amon-Ra's the wide receiver 2, I want to say, in fantasy. Wow. So that's ridiculous.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy. Well, anyways, let's go into our start sets. We'll recap last week. We already talked about J-Mo and Waddle. Tip the cap to Tommy. That one really hurt there. But then we got Rico Dowdle and Ricky Pearsall. Am I reading that? Like, did Pearsall play? I know he put up 0. Did he? He did play the game. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm going to take the win with Rico's 5.4 fantasy points. Feels hard, or feels bad winning that one, but we'll take the win there. And then we got Cortland Sutton versus Calvin Ridley. I had Sutton who did win with 14.8 compared to Ridley's 9.8. Overall, I was pretty excited about that just because I was playing against both those guys. Didn't put up insane numbers like we talked about last week. The 3 weeks before last week, each of them were averaging like 20, 22 points or something. So I was pretty happy with it. But
dude, what an awful start sit lineup we had this week. The player pool we picked from was not too fantastic this week. And even like the Ridley versus Sutton one, like it was 15-10, but like I expected them both to play really well this week. And like looking back, the Broncos scored like 35 points and Cortland Sutton 15. Like, I feel like he should have scored way more. But yeah, I guess I don't get to add much on the recap because we already covered JMO and I lost the other 2. Yeah, I think we're all tied up now. I want to say
it's
11-8. We're both 11-8 on the year.
All right.
Yeah, this one will be the grudge match. Assume we don't have any injuries. So yeah, I guess who do you have in this first one? We got DJ Moore versus Quentin Johnston.
Yeah. This one was a tough one, and I might contradict myself a little bit here. But I'm gonna go with Quentin Johnston. Last 3 games, he's had 12, 10, and 22 fantasy points. DJ Moore also has a good matchup this week against the Vikings. But we've talked about that Chargers-Ravens matchup. I really love Herbert against the Ravens, and that applies to the wide receivers too. I don't know. Johnson's probably is he number 3 on their depth chart? Who am I missing? Maybe no, he's probably number 2.
He's probably 2.
Yeah, but what I came down to in this one is I kind of just trust Herbert more than Caleb Williams. I think ever since I took Caleb Williams as a best bet to go over his yards and he put up like 17 in the first half, he really has not been good. You look at his passing yards and it's really not been great over the past few weeks. So I'm kind of just trusting Herbert and hopefully Quentin Johnston outscores DJ Moore there.
Yeah, you said a little bit of contradicting yourself. I'm certainly going to be contradicting myself here because I just talked about how much I love Justin Herbert. But I think the reason I'm more leaning DJ Moore versus Quentin Johnston is I think they both have fantastic matchups this week. We already talked about the Chargers against the Ravens, obviously. But we also have the Bears playing against the Vikings, which they've given up the 3rd most points to wide receivers. And we always talk about how that stat might be skewed, but we're like probably a month and a half away from me making that claim, and they've still given up the 3rd most points to wide receivers. So apparently they are a decent matchup for wide receivers, and the Vikings often find themselves ahead, so the Bears could be throwing them back into the game. And real quick, before I say a couple DJ Moore things, I want to throw out a couple of Quentin Johnston stats of why I'm kind of fading him, I guess. So he has less than 4 receptions in 6 of his 8 games played. In those other 2 games, he had 4 and 5. And then also he has a season high of 22.1, and in that game he had 2 touchdowns. And then his last one, you talked about his last 3 games. He's averaging 15 points in those, which would be on pace for the wide receiver 16 on the year. But that he also scored a touchdown every week in that span. So I feel like if that's his ceiling, like wide receiver 16, I'm just like he's playing as well as he possibly can. And that's all. I know that's good, but I'm like, if that's like his ceiling, I expect him to come down from there a little bit with the touchdown regression. So I just really don't think he's that fantastic of a player, and he doesn't have like a high volume role or anything like that. So I'm a little concerned about him, but he's kind of like Jameson Williams. It's like, if you have him, you kind of just got to decide like, hey, am I going to play him or not? He's like the Mike Williams of old on this Chargers team. Like, some weeks he's going to do awesome and score a couple touchdowns, and some weeks he's not going to catch a ball. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm a little skeptical on Quentin Johnston. Then just a couple of things for DJ Moore. Sorry, this is a yap session of an answer here. But DJ Moore had 13.7 last week, which was his third highest on the year. That's awful. But it was the first game with the new offensive coordinator. So it's good to see he's had one of his best weeks with the new offensive coordinator, and I'm hoping they keep moving in the right direction, since the Packers have a pretty decent defense, and they actually looked like somewhat competent moving the ball that game. And then just Moore's just a better player than Quentin Johnston. So at the end of the day, if they both have good matchups, I'm gonna bet on the better player for sure.
Sure. Well, you kind of made me feel bad with all those stats on how Johnson sucks. So I'm gonna pull up one thing. DJ Moore, last few games, 13, 5, 7, 5, 6 fantasy points.
Hey,
that's horrible.
No, you gotta scrap everything before last week. Anything that was Shane Waldron related, scrap that. He's averaging 13.7 on the year in my book.
That's fair. Well, all I'm seeing, Johnson's going to catch 2 balls. They're both going to be 50-plus yard touchdowns, and I'm going to win this. That's how it's going to go.
Oh, if I'm losing, that is what's going to happen. He's either scoring 5 or 22.1 or close to it.
There we go. Well, yeah, that'll be a fun one to follow. Definitely a big one, seeing as we're tied in these standings. So I like it. Well, who you got for the next one? We got Rome Odunze and Michael Pittman.
Speaking of contradicting yourself, let me not take the Bears wide receiver on this one. I'm going to take Michael Pittman. As much as it pains me, I've been hating on him all year, especially in our first episode. He was one of my bold predictions for the year, and that one's probably already a home run with a month and a half left in the season. So that's good, I guess. But I actually do like Michael Pittman this upcoming week against the Lions. Yeah, sure. Death taxes and picking a wide receiver that plays against the Lions. That seems to be my strategy. But other than that, Pittman had 8 targets in his first game with Anthony Richardson back. So it seems like he's getting pretty good volume. And that was against the Jets defense that's underperforming, but they're still a solid defense, as we know. So it was good to see him put up some points in a matchup where it's not like a cakewalk of a defense. And then the only other thing I had written down was just the matchup's going to be good for him with the game script if the Lions are favored by 7.5. So I shouldn't say it is going to be favorable. It is likely to be favorable for the week playing the Colts or playing the Lions. Sorry. So yeah, I like Pittman this week over Odunze, but like I said, I love DJ Moore, so I still like Odunze this week. I just really like both these options, but I'm gonna lean Pittman a little more. Kind of going back to Odunze's certainly going to be a better player than him, but right now I'm probably taking Pittman. And if they both have good matchups, I'm going to lead Michael Pittman.
Sure. Well, I'm gonna contradict myself and take Rome with a horrible quarterback, Caleb Williams. But you mentioned that new offensive coordinator. I was talking to him, and he told me he really wants to get Rome involved in the game. You look at last game, 10 targets. How about that? Pretty good. But the real reason I'm taking him, being a Colts fan, Anthony Richardson, I don't think likes Michael Pittman for some reason. Fantasy wise, we've seen Alec Pearson, Josh Downs be more of Richardson's favorite targets. I think Richardson kind of likes to throw the deep ball and does not like to complete passes under 10 yards for some reason. And he also likes AD Mitchell a little bit. I don't know, but I just don't trust Pittman at all. I hope he goes off, but for those reasons, offense coordinator, he texted me, so Rome's going to be the guy this week.
Perfect. Yeah, I was looking at some stats from the Bears last week because I was trying to figure out like who I'd rather take when we were deciding these start sits. And last week, actually, all 3 of their wide receivers had 8+ targets, which I thought was kind of crazy, especially with like not scoring more than 20 points. Like, I don't know. That seemed pretty crazy to me. But the main thing I was looking for was like Odunze's snap count versus DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And they're actually all playing over 80%. So Odunze was still the lowest, but man, they apparently run a lot of 13 personnel. So Rome Odunze's getting on the field a lot more than maybe I had originally thought. Since we haven't played the Bears yet, I haven't really sat down and watched a full Bears game. But it's good to see him getting on the field. Good for him, because I really liked him as a prospect too. So we'll see. Maybe I'm not hoping he has a huge week this week necessarily, but I like him for the future. I think he's going to be a really good player.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't disagree. Well, this last one we got. Oh man, I didn't even write it down. What is it? Who was it? I can't even remember.
Sam Laporta and Hunter Henry.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm gonna go with Hunter Henry. Last three games he's put up 12, 2, and 12. I'm kind of just banking on Drake May. I've kind of liked him recently. He's been a guy that I like to kind of stream and maybe plug into fantasy lineups. And with that, he hasn't hated Hunter Henry. I don't know. I'm kind of fading Laporta. He's had a down year. I'm really hoping the Colts can shut him down. Maybe some JMO bombs and some St. Brown bombs, and then hand it off to Monty all the time. So we're just gonna go with that. Really don't have any other reasoning besides I kind of just like Hunter Henry as a player, and then like the quarterback too. So we're gonna take a flyer on Hunter Henry.
Yep. Yeah. And I think once again, like we have another couple guys that both have really good matchups this week. So I feel like that's not really a great way to like go about it. I think Laporta technically has the better matchup, like on paper from the season. The Colts have given up the 6th most points to tight ends, so maybe a slightly better matchup for him. But the main reason I'm going to go with him is because with tight ends, I think if you don't have like an elite guy, the way at least that I like to go about it is just like, who do I think is going to score a touchdown this week? Like who has the best chance to score this week? And I'm going to go with Sam Laporta. He's on the Lions offense and he has a good matchup against the Colts defense that hasn't looked great this year. So that's really the only reason I'm going for him. I don't have any good rationale other than that. He's been awful. I don't even think he scored double digits when he doesn't have a touchdown this year. But I'm really just thinking he's going to hopefully get that touchdown this week, maybe 2, and then he'll turn in a pretty solid day. And the only other thing to add is he missed last week, but he already returned to practice as a full participant, so he'll be out there this week.
Oh, I heard that injury's lingering.
Big news.
It's gonna really affect him. Yeah, but I mean, honestly, I kind of anticipate this one, both of them getting like 10 to 11 points and one of them winning by like a point. That's what I'm going to predict. But all three of these be really fun to follow. So I think we got good matchups there.
Yeah, I feel like this one overall should hopefully be better than last week because I really do, I think, like all 6 of these guys. I can't really get behind Quentin Johnson too easily, but that matchup's kind of hard to avoid. So I'd probably say I do like all of them this week, and hopefully the scores this week do reflect that, even if maybe I don't get 2+ wins in the win column.
Absolutely, yeah. Hopefully we see some really close ones. I feel like as of late, like all of them have been like blowouts or like just crappers, like Ricky Pearsall putting up zeros. So yeah, hopefully we get some close ones here.
We're never pulling a start sit for my 16-man league again. That was a mistake.
I gotcha. Oh man. Well, what do we got next? We got trivia up next.
Yeah, I think that's all of our start sits. So yeah, I guess we're moving into trivia, which I got the question for you today. I don't think we've done a question like this, like year by year things. Like we've only really done like a specific year or like a specific time frame or whatever. So let me just stop talking and get to the question. So over the last 13 years, so 2011 through 2013, there's been 10 different receivers to lead the league in receiving. So 3 of them are repeats, and then 7 of them have done it once. Can you name those 10 receivers that have led the league since 2011?
All right. Well, let's go. Antonio Brown's got to be on there.
Yep, he did it in 2017 and 2014. And actually, funny enough, this was the only weird stat I had written down was his career high wasn't even in either of those years.
Oh, really?
So, wow. Yeah, he led the league twice, and neither of them were his career high.
Okay. Let's go Julio. Julio on there?
Yep, Julio led twice as well. He led in 2018 and 2015.
All right. What about DeAndre Hopkins?
He actually did not.
Okay. So last year was probably Tyreek. Maybe
Tyreek was last year. That was the first time he's ever done it.
Okay. And CD's probably not on there, I bet.
No.
All right. Let's take a flyer. Adam Thielen.
No, he's not here.
All right.
No, they're all much better than him.
Okay. Is JJ on there?
Yep, he did it the year prior.
I'm gonna guess Jamar is not on there then.
No.
Probably not. Okay. Let's go 2011. Like Larry Fitzgerald be up there?
No, not Larry. Yeah, you're thinking of like the right time frame of receivers. Like who else was really good around then?
Okay. Is Calvin Johnson?
Yep.
He's
He
there.
did it in 2011 and 2012. So he's the last guy to repeat, and he also has the most receiving yards in a season of all time in
All
that
right.
2012 campaign.
There we go. All right. What years am I looking at now?
Okay, you've got 2013, which is probably the hardest one, just FYI. And then you have 2016, 2019, 2020, and 2021. 2020 is also a little tricky too, but he's a good receiver. You might not just expect him to lead the league. So we might have to get to hints for maybe 13 and 20.
Okay. Let's go. Who would have been? I'm just trying to think like way back. I don't know. Let's focus on 1 year. What'd you say? 2020? That's the most
I think you
recent?
should probably go 2021.
2021.
That's definitely the easiest one left.
Yeah, I'm just blanking. Amon Ra probably didn't do it.
Nah, he was third last year, I want to say, though.
What about?
So if this helps rings a bell, he did set the second most receiving yards in a season of all time in this campaign on his way to winning the Triple Crown for receiving.
I gotta know this one. Oh my God. Oh, Cooper Kupp.
Yep, you got it.
Duh.
Yep, second most
Yeah.
receiving yards in a season ever. Mickey Mouse 17th game, but whatever. Calvin on top.
Yeah. All right. So Cooper Kupp there. Okay. What year now?
2020. So when he went to this team, he did change teams, like going into 2020 to have his big year. But he did just change teams again.
Diggs.
Yep, that was the guy I was thinking. Like you might not have expected him to ever lead.
Yeah.
And that year he led with 1,535, which is
Oh wow.
the lowest on this list besides when AB did it in 2017. Oh,
right.
It's the third lowest. You haven't gotten who the lowest is yet, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. So
What's
2019. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's the most recent year? 2019.
So in this season, he also set the record for most receptions in a year. He's also like out of the league now.
Michael Thomas.
Yep, you got it. Michael Thomas.
There we go.
All right, and then 2016. Think about guys that you're pretty fond of.
Dude, I was thinking about like Doug Baldwin, but I'm like, no way he let it.
Not fond of him in that way.
Who am I fond of? Like the Colts. T.Y.?
Yep, T.Y. led in 2016 with 1,448, and I had him in fantasy that year.
Wow.
So I definitely remember that one. That was pretty sick.
Dang, I don't know if I would have thought about that.
That's
interesting.
Him and Diggs in this last one are tricky. So this last one, I'm trying to even think of like a good hint for him. It's definitely
what year?
2013.
13.
This was like the only good year of his career because for some reason he was not able to stay on the field. Not injury related.
Josh Gordon.
Yep, Josh Gordon led in 20.
I was thinking about Amari Cooper, not for 2013, but like just in general. I'm like, oh, did he have any good years? But then Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
I wonder if I would have gotten that. The non-injury related gave it away.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know how far I could go with giving it away. I feel like I misled you though to thinking like it was an injury type thing.
No, that was good.
Like I didn't mean to say that if that's where I led you. But yeah, this list, I feel like there's a couple guys like that you would definitely expect to be here, and then like guys like Diggs and Ty and like Josh. I did know the Josh Gordon Ty ones, but like you would never really think that if you didn't know it. So kind of interesting. Some people have led like that you wouldn't expect, and some guys led with 1,400 yards. So definitely been some down years in the past for receivers. So pretty funny.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that was fun. I always struggle like thinking back like in recent years, or not recent years, but like further back.
Yeah.
So that one was fun. Good question.
All right. I guess the only thing we got left here is our best bets then. I guess I can do mine from last week real quick. So we were down 1 unit last week. We did our first week with 3 bets. So we had 2 hit and 1 miss. So the hit this week was the Vikings. They got some revenge for us from the week before. They finally covered that 6.5 against Tennessee. Still not a very impressive game out of the Vikings. So I don't know. If I was a fan of them, I might be a little concerned. I know they're not like a pushover or anything. I mean, they're 8-2. When we play them, I'm certainly going to be scared because they have a good defense, but I feel like they just have not been impressive in these games against bad teams. I mean, you look at what the Lions did to the Titans and the Jaguars, and then you look at what the Vikings did to them. It's like, I definitely would be scared if I was a fan of that team, I guess, with how that offense has looked the past 2 weeks. But then my two misses this week were the Bengals and the Falcons. Oh my God, the Falcons, awful pick. Bo Nix completely torched them. They looked awful. I don't know where their offense went this entire game. I know Denver's got a great defense, but man, I thought the Falcons had a good offense. Maybe not. We talked a little bit about them when Miller was on, and man, they're certainly the biggest frauds in the NFC. But I feel like that probably went without saying, since leading the NFC South is not super impressive. And then heartbreak for the Bengals on Sunday night. They were able to fight back into the game. I went to bed at halftime because I thought it was completely over. So I woke up to see they only lost by 7. I guess J.K. Dobbins had the last second touchdown. So yeah, they ended up not winning, but it was a better bet than I expected. I thought I totally just punted both those money line bets this week, but at least that one was decent. So we'll look on to this week. We're gonna have 3 bets again this week. So we'll see if we can fare a little better and at least maybe be up a unit this time instead of down.
There we go. Yeah, that Bengals game, I think I just turned it off. I don't even think I went to bed. I turned it off out of frustration for my fantasy team getting torched. So that one was tough for us. But I'll recap my last week. Went 2-1, so went pretty well. Lions -13, probably the easiest money I've ever made. Should have been a mega Max Whale Bezos play of 10 units, but we'll go on from that one. Then Breece Hall over his rushing yards. I think it was either 64.5 or 68.5. But he hit that relatively well. I think he finished around like 78 or 80-ish maybe. So that was a good play. Continuing to fade the Colts. They just bleed rushing running backs or rushing yards to running backs. And then the last one, Kareem Hunt, primetime receiving yards, officially banned from taking running backs receiving yards in primetime games. Maybe just in general, honestly. He finished the line was 15.5, and he got a nice 0 receiving yards. So no more running backs in receiving yards there, but we'll take the 2-1 on the week.
Yeah, dude, that Kareem Hunt one was really surprising to me because I want to say he didn't even have a target. I
don't think so either.
I know he had no catches. No targets. So I couldn't even believe, like, against the Bills in a game where they found themselves down, that they weren't trying to target Kareem Hunt at all, which I don't know. I feel like they target their running backs a decent amount. I mean, when Jerick McKinnon was there, they were dumping that ball off to him every other down. And then at the beginning of the year, I was even talking about some Isaiah Pacheco pass catching rhetoric. So I'm really surprised they didn't get Kareem Hunt the ball at all in this game, especially when they were down and in a game where it's like a big time game. So that one was surprising. But yeah, those other two were slam dunks for sure. I didn't bet on the Lions -13 for some reason because I was too scared. And going into every game, I always have my doubts. I never get too ahead of myself. So I was like, I feel like it's bad luck for me to bet on the Lions -13. So happy it hit for you. And I'm also, I guess, happy it hit for myself. It was a fun game to watch for the first 3 quarters.
Absolutely. Well, I've got 3 picks as well. You wanna start us off with your first one?
Yeah. Okay. My first pick this week, I guess maybe I should just do this one first since I already kind of talked about it. I'm going to take Anthony Richardson rush yards over. There's no player props out yet. So I'm basically just saying I'm going to take whatever the standard line is at like -110 or whatever. I'm projecting it to maybe be around 40.5-ish because that's what it was week 3 when Colin took him. So yeah, I even said I would probably take it up to 50 because I feel pretty confident that the Lions defense is not going to be great at defending him on the ground. So yeah, I like Richardson to rush over. Probably not too much more to add from what we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I'm not going to take this, but I mean, if you could parlay Richardson 100+ rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, that'd be a good move. So I definitely like that pick.
Yeah, it's probably like -400 for all that parlayed.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
Yeah. That's the only thing that sucks about it.
Well, sticking with that game, we're gonna go a parlay of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs rushing yards. I'm thinking about 40 for Monty, 50 for Gibbs. We're gonna take alternate lines to get us around -110, maybe even plus odds. But like we mentioned earlier, Colts bleed rushing yards to running backs. Gibbs has only gone under 60 rushing yards once this season, so he's gonna be the higher one for one of the legs. And then Monty, I'm thinking about 40. We're gonna have to see. We've been checking. I checked 4 sports books to get rushing yard props, but couldn't get any. But even at 40, I still like Monty. Monty has had some games with 30 yards or below that 40 mark, but I'm not worried. I think they're both going to run all over the Colts. So we're going to make that a 1.5 unit play. Odds to be determined.
All right, I like it even more. You knew I wasn't going to complain about that one. So yeah, I mean, like talking from a non-biased standpoint, I mean, the Colts have given up a lot of yards to running backs, like you said. And then Gibbs and Montgomery have both just been fantastic, albeit they've had some pretty easy matchups of late. But they both can always get things going. I guess maybe I shouldn't say that. Against the Texans, they were awful. But other than that, they've been pretty good in all their games. So yeah, I mean, 40 and 50 seems really low. I know you're parlaying them together. So yeah, I definitely like that if that's around where their lines are at to get it around plus 100 or so.
Yeah, and even if I'd be really happy if I could get like Monty 25 and then Gibbs 40 or 50. But again, we're gonna have to see. So.
Yep. All right. I guess my next pick, I've got 2 game lines this week. No over-unders. I think I'm still I guess I shouldn't say I'm scared after missing 1 or 2 of them not too long ago, but I just didn't really like any of them this week. We talked about maybe doing like a joint play of the Colts Lions over, but it's at 50.5. Like it's really high. So I'm a little bit concerned about that one. So maybe going to stay away from the over-unders this week and move into the Buccaneers. I think they're like -5.5, -6. They have moved a little bit in the Buccaneers' favor since I've bet, so it's probably not as good of odds. I shifted it to -6.5 though against the Giants at +112. The only thing that scares me a little bit in this game is that the Giants are coming off a bye, so they're going to be a little bit better rested than the Buccaneers this upcoming week. Oh wait, are the Buccaneers coming off a bye, or am I making that up?
They might be. I'm going to check.
Yeah, they might be. Now that I think about it,
looks like they are.
Yeah,
oh
okay,
yeah,
I had nothing to worry about. All right, perfect. Nothing to worry about. As soon as I read that, I was like, wait a second. I'm pretty sure they were on a bye last week. All right, so scrap that. Don't worry about that. We got Tommy DeVito coming in for the Giants. I mean, as bad as Daniel Jones has been, this might be a downgrade from where they were. I don't know why they're not putting in Drew Lock, to be completely honest. He was the backup all year and probably just a better quarterback overall. So head scratching move there. Classic Giants. But on to the Buccaneers. I really just like them to wipe the floor with the Giants because they're not a very good football team, and they're kind of in disarray right now with Daniel Jones being out of the picture. And then the only stat I had, and I don't have the exact numbers, I guess, but I was just thinking about it earlier, and I looked at Tommy DeVito's stats from last year. I don't know how you play 67% of snaps in a game in back-to-back weeks, but looking at his games where he played like more than half the snaps, I think there were 7 or 8 of them, and he cleared 200 yards once. So I am not the least bit concerned about the Giants putting up points. I'm more concerned about the Giants defense just performing well, I guess, because I think they have an underrated defense. It hasn't showed up a lot recently. But yeah, I could see them maybe giving the Buccaneers a little bit of problems. But obviously not scared enough to not take them. So I'm taking the Bucs -6.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this line closes at like 7.5. Just people betting against the Giants. I mean, that locker room's in disarray. The quarterbacks don't know what's going on. So I really like the play of just fading the Giants. Would be concerned about Tyron Tracy running for 200 yards, but that's about it. So I like the play there.
I'm shaking in my boots, man.
Oh man. Well, my next play, we're going to go to a first half spread. It's going to be the Texans first half -4.5 against the Titans. On the year, the Texans, I couldn't find it. They're like, how many games have they played? They're like 8-2 or something in the first half spread. No, they played 11. There's something ridiculous on the first half spread and just stink it up in the second half. But I was also trying to go back and see what the Titans first half spread is. And just looking at the past 5 weeks and what the scores have been at halftime, I think they've only covered their first half spread once. So I'm looking for the Texans to continue to start off strong, and against a team that they definitely should beat, in the Titans. And I mean, Texans are at home, game they should win. I see no problem here in the first half. They might blow it in the second half. That's why I'm not taking full spread, but I like them to be up by a touchdown at half.
Yeah, I actually considered taking the full game spread on the Texans, but what did you say what it was? Like 8.5, 9.5?
It's currently at 8.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know if I feel super comfortable taking more than a touchdown in a division game, albeit against the Titans. So yeah, I kind of stayed away from that one. But yeah, I like this one a lot more the first half. And like you said, I mean, the Titans have not only been bad, but apparently they've been very bad in the first half. So we'll see if that streak can continue here against the Texans. I am kind of curious though. So can you move the lines on like first half bets, or do you have to just take what they give you?
That's a great question. I haven't even tried. I'm
Okay.
guessing. I'm guessing on either FanDuel or DraftKings. You probably could, but I haven't even tried.
Gotcha. I was gonna ask, like, if you could move it, like, I don't know if I see much of a difference between like 4.5 and 6.5.
6.5. Yeah.
Maybe 3.5. I could see a difference because like first half, you don't have that concern of like needing a specific amount of points to stay alive. Like you could see a 4-point deficit if like someone's up by 7, then someone just kicks a field goal
Right.
to go into the locker room or whatever. So that's the only thing I was thinking there is like I'd maybe push this to 6.5. Like if you're able to get slightly better odds, but it might not move it all that much because Vegas is probably thinking the same thing. Like what's the difference between 4.5 and 6.5? So maybe not.
I would agree. Yeah. I'll have to go see if you can even do that. But honestly, if I could, I probably wouldn't even do it. I don't know. I feel like if I were to do that, something weird will happen, and they would go in up like 5 or 6 at half.
Yeah, I was asking you too because it seems like we're opposites in that front. Like I always love moving lines to like a nice even number or whatever that makes sense in my head, and you're always the guy that just like whatever it is, I'm just taking it. So I was curious, like if you could bet it and if you considered that at all.
Yeah. Good question though. Yeah, I'll have to look into it.
All right, maybe I will as well. My last pick here, I've got another spread here. This one is just straight what the books had, and I want to say it's even moved to 2.5, but the odds reduction was pretty severe, so I just went ahead and left it at -3. But I've got the Ravens -3 at the Chargers plus 102. So obviously we've talked a lot about this Chargers Ravens game. We think it's going to be high scoring, but I think this is a great bounce back opportunity for the Ravens defense. It's going to be tough going up against a good Chargers defense and a Chargers offense that could probably do some damage on their own defense. But I just don't see Lamar dropping this one after a tough game against the Steelers. And then really, I don't see much of a difference between taking the money line for the favorite and taking -2.5. And then like I said, I just left it at 3 because it was a pretty severe like odds reduction to move to 2.5 or whatever. So I was like, I'll just take it. And then we'll take the push if it's at exactly 3 and we'll live with it.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean the Ravens just seem to find ways to win games. It's not a divisional game, so maybe that'll help. I mean, I know we talked about Herbert going off, and I know I've liked a lot of these wide receivers for the Chargers. But I mean, I got full confidence in the Ravens, even if they give up 30, 35 points. So I like it. Well, my last play. Speaking of that game, we're going to go Justin Herbert over passing yards in that game. I expect it to be somewhat around 275, maybe even lower. But I mean, if it's approaching 300, I'm still going to take it. We've talked a lot about him, so I won't say anything more on that. But if you look at the Ravens, and like passing yards that they've given up to like semi-comprehensible quarterbacks, we'll go Joe Burrow 428. Heck, even Bo Nix 225. You got Jameis 334, Baker 370, Jaden Daniels 269, Burrow again 392, Dak 379. I could go on and on. All these guys just destroy their passing line. So whatever it is, I'm going to take it. And we're going to make that one a 1.5 unit play as well.
Yep. Obviously, I love that one. I was already talking about Herbert earlier. So, yeah, I mean, if he's going to hit his fantasy projection, he's probably going to have to hit that passing yard projection too. So, I love this pick. Hopefully, this game is high scoring, or else we might be in some trouble here next.
We might be in trouble there.
Come on, Harbaugh brothers, move that damn ball.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, I think that covers everything for this week, right?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Very good. Well, we'll be back hopefully after a Colts win and a couple fantasy wins. So we'll be back next week with some more. You got anything else?
I agree with 2 out of 3 of those statements, my friend.
Oh man. Well, very, very good. Well, good luck to you in fantasy this week. Good luck to the Lions. And we'll see everybody next week. Go Colts.